The blizzard did not knock. It tore the roof off Thomas McAllister's cabin like a page from a book. Inside, the McAllisters screamed as snow poured through the gap, freezing and furious.
Ingrid, get the children under the table. The whole roof's going.
A half-mile away, another house did not tremble. Lucas Johansson's sod walls ate the wind whole.
Do you hear that, Eric? Screaming over the wind.
It's the McAllisters, Pa. Will they die out there?
Lucas pulled on his heavy coat, the same one they'd laughed at for smelling of dirt, and reached for the rope. He tied one end to the doorpost, the other to his belt, and yanked open the door.
After all they said about our house, why is he risking his life?
6 months earlier, Lucas Johansson had arrived with nothing but a broken wagon and a boy. The town had already decided he would fail. The wagon creaked to a stop on miles of flat, treeless prairie. Nothing stood between them and the wind but grass.
We'll build with what the prairie gives us, Eric. The earth here is thick with roots. It will hold.
He borrowed a sharp spade and cut the first heavy brick of living sod. Grass and dirt, woven together by centuries. Each brick weighed as much as a grown man. His back burned, but the wall began to rise, one back-breaking block at a time.
Look at that. A man piling mud like a child's sand fort. He'll be buried in it by winter.
Pa, why does he talk like that? We aren't hurting anyone.
Because he's afraid, Eric. Afraid that a man with nothing but dirt might prove him wrong.
Thomas McAllister laughed loudly, and the sound carried across the open plain like a promise of failure. Lucas didn't answer. He set the next heavy brick into place, his silence a wall of its own.
Let them laugh. The prairie has its own laws. We'll see which house is still standing when the storm comes.
Day after day, Lucas and Eric laid the thick green bricks. The wall climbed, a dark fortress of earth rising from the flatland.
See this root web? Sod holds heat like a blanket, Eric. In winter, we'll be warm while those timbermen shiver.
A mile away, Thomas McAllister nailed the last shingle onto his high-peaked roof. By sundown, neighbors gathered to toast his fine new home.
Good lumber, good walls, not a speck of dirt. That's how a real man builds, friends.
A week later, Lucas went to town for supplies. The general store was full, and so was Johan Peterson's mouth.
Well, if it isn't the Prairie Mole, how's your dirt castle holding up, Johansson? Ready to cave in yet?
Eric's face burned. He stared at the floorboards, wishing he could shrink into the shadows. The other shoppers chuckled.
It'll stand, Johan. Earth doesn't catch fire, and it doesn't rot. Time will tell which house truly holds. Don't carry their words, Eric. Walls made of earth don't care about opinions. Our home will speak for itself when winter comes.
But Pa, what if they're right? What if we're just burying ourselves in mud and pretending it's a home?
You didn't say it, but I heard the question. Come, I'll tell you a story while we walk.
By the time they reached the rising sod walls, Lucas's voice carried a calm that cut through Eric's doubt.
My grandfather cut his house from a hillside of thick turf. It outlived him, never burned, never blew down.
But Pa, that was Norway. Here the wind feels meaner. What if the cold just leaks through?
Cold leaks through cracks, not through walls 3 feet thick. The earth doesn't care where it sits.
They set the last sod block on the roof as the sun bled orange. The house was low, dark, and smelled of damp roots.
So, this is what you've been digging all summer. Smells like a grave. You actually plan to winter here?
It's warmer than your high ceiling, Thomas. And it won't burn when your stove glows red. The walls smell like earth, but they'll stay when the wind howls. That's the promise of sod.
Outside, the town whispered their bets. Inside, the Johansons waited for winter, with a roof made of the same dirt they'd been mocked for. When the first hard freeze arrived, it painted the inside of Thomas McAllister's windows with a thick layer of ice. The McAllisters fed their stove until it glowed red, but the frost on the walls didn't retreat.
Pa, how come we don't need half as much wood? My blanket isn't even cold this morning.
3 feet of earth, Eric. It doesn't let the heat slip out like thin boards. The roots hold it close.
Thomas, maybe we should have listened. The Johansons' house looks so warm, and we're ice inside.
Warm and buried in filth. I'll not hear another word about that dirt pile under my own roof.
At the general store, Johan Peterson cursed his soaring wood bill, but he blamed the weather, never his thin walls. Morning after morning, the sod house windows stayed clear while others had to scrape frost from the inside.
They can see it now, but seeing isn't the same as admitting.
The prairie cold was no longer a forecast. It was a test, and it had only just begun. To keep the frost at bay, Thomas McAllister drove his stove until the iron plates glowed and the room smelled of hot metal. The air outside was frozen solid, but inside his walls, the frost spread behind the cupboards anyway.
Pa, the McAllisters burn wood like they're afraid of the dark. Why don't they build with earth too?
Pride burns hotter than any stove, Eric, and it can set fire to a man's sense before the flames even reach him.
What Lucas knew, and what the others ignored, was that wet sod swallows fire. Dry timber only feeds it. In Johan's cabin, the stovepipe blazed orange, and he threw another log in with a grunt. The farmer's almanac warned of a hard winter, and the general store had already sold out of every extra cord. Soon, the only way to stay warm was to risk burning the place down.
One spark on dry pine, and that cabin becomes a lantern. We must be careful.
The real test hadn't even begun, but the lines were drawn in frost and flame. One pale morning, an old man walked out of the frozen prairie and stopped before Lucas Johansson's sod house.
He touched the wall with a weathered hand. My grandmother's house was earth. It never fell.
Then I am not alone in this. My grandfather built with earth in Norway. Please, tell me more.
Did your people use grass bricks like these? And did the warmth really stay?
Warm in winter, cool in summer. The earth holds what we need. Your father knows this.
From the general store porch, Thomas and Johan watched, their laughter like stones across the frozen silence.
Look at the immigrant taking lessons from a savage. What's next? A teepee for the winter.
Dirt calls to dirt, McAllister. Neither one belongs here with decent folk.
Samuel didn't flinch. He simply touched his chest in farewell and walked back into the prairie, his dignity unbroken.
Lucas watched him go, then pressed his palm to the sod wall. They laugh because they're afraid, but this wall will outlast their mockery.
In town, the storekeeper warned that the sod roof would weep mud in spring and pull the walls down.
Spring was a worry for another season. The wolf at the door right now was winter.
The telegraph that afternoon brought news of a blizzard roaring down from the north, the worst in a decade.
This cabin has stood 2 winters. I won't start doubting it because of a dirt pile.
Lucas and Eric packed fresh sod onto the roof, lashing tar paper down as the sky turned bruise dark.
Higher, Eric. The wind will find any loose edge and rip it away like a hungry wolf.
I am trying, Pa. These blocks weigh more than I do.
They laughed at this dirt, but tonight it will stand between us and the grave.
Evening brought the first heavy snow, muffling the world in breathless silence. And then the blizzard began in earnest, howling like a beast across the flatland. The blizzard slammed into the settlement with the force of a runaway freight train, shaking the very earth.
The Pa, are we really safe in here?
3 feet of packed earth, Eric. It doesn't even notice the wind.
In Thomas McAllister's cabin, the lantern swung wildly, and the walls groaned like a ship at sea.
Ingrid, get the children. That roof is going to tear wide open.
A sudden gust ripped a shingle clean off, sending it spinning into the white darkness. The sod house absorbed the blow with a low, steady hum, the walls silent and solid.
It's like the house is breathing, but not scared, just waiting.
Because it's part of the land, son. It doesn't fight the storm, it just holds.
Outside, the blizzard howled on, testing walls of wood and earth without mercy. The roof of Thomas McAllister's cabin split wide open, with a sound like tearing canvas, and snow poured in like a flood.
Ingrid, get the children under the table. The whole ceiling is caving in.
Thomas, we're going to freeze. There's nothing but wind and ice now.
Inside the sod house, Lucas pressed his ear against the earthen wall and heard the distant screams.
Eric, the McAllister cabin is breaking apart. I have to go.
Pa, you can't. The wind will knock you down. Will they die if we don't help?
They'll die if I don't try. I won't carry that weight.
He pulled the rope tight around the doorpost, the knot biting into the wood like a promise.
Keep the stove hot, and don't open this door for anyone but me.
Then he opened the door and stepped into the white fury, the rope, his only tether to the living world. Lucas leaned into the wind, the rope burning through his gloves. Snow stung like shards of glass. He found the McAllister cabin half collapsed, Thomas holding a frozen blanket against the gap.
Drop the blanket, grab the children and follow me. Hold the rope and don't let go.
They stumbled into the whiteout, each hand gripping the rope like a lifeline. Ingrid slipped and went down. Lucas hauled her up before the snow could swallow her. The sod house door opened, and they tumbled inside. Steam exploded from their frozen coats.
Pa, you brought them.
It's so warm. I can't feel the wind at all. How is this possible?
This dirt hovel saved my family. I called it a joke.
Outside, the blizzard screamed on. Inside this house of dirt, the air was still and impossibly warm.
This wall, it's not cold like ours. It holds heat like a living thing.
Ma'am, you are shivering. Here, take my blanket. The stove will warm you.
Ingrid took the blanket and pulled Eric into a wordless embrace, her sobs the only sound in the quiet room.
I called this a grave, but it's the only thing between my children and a frozen death.
Sit close to the stove. There's coffee on the hob. We'll wait out the storm together.
Thomas stared at the thick earthen walls, his jaw clenched, the silence heavier than any apology. Outside, the wind howled like a wounded beast, but inside, the sod muffled its fury to a distant murmur.
Our cabin was solid, yet it fell. How can this dirt feel so safe?
It's not just dirt. It's the prairie holding us, the same as it's held the people here for centuries.
The silence stretched. Only the stove's crackle and the distant storm's muffled roar answered. A flicker of orange light pushed through the small window, painting the earthen walls a sickly amber.
Pa, the window. Something's burning out there. I can see it through the snow.
Through the blizzard, Johan Peterson's cabin blazed like a torch, its dry timber fed by the stove he'd overstoked for days.
Help! The roof's caving. My family, they're out here in the snow.
Johan's cabin is gone. They'll freeze in minutes.
I am coming with you. I owe you my family's lives. Let me help save his.
Then grab the rope. We go together, and no one lets go.
They retied the rope to the doorpost. The fire's glow now a beacon through the whiteout, pulling them toward the screams.
Pa, come back. Please come back.
The wind swallowed them whole. 2 men and a rope vanishing into a hell of fire and ice, they found Johann and his family staggering through the snow. The burning cabin, a raging pyre behind them. His youngest daughter lay unconscious in the drift. Lucas lifted her, cradling her against his coat.
My wife, she can't walk. Please don't let her die out here.
Thomas grabbed the woman and pulled her onto the rope path, his own strength failing. A sudden gust drove a cloud of embers at them, sizzling on their frozen clothes. They groped their way back, the rope vibrating with the strain, the firelight painting the snow blood red. Hands reached from the door, Ingrid and Eric hauling them into the sod house's warmth.
Set them by the stove? I'll get blankets.
The door thudded shut, sealing out the inferno, and the room filled with the gasps of the nearly dead. Johann stood motionless, his face a mask of shock, unable to speak, unable to move. The sod house now held 3 families, their breath and silence filling the close, warm air.
I was wrong about your house. It saved my family.
It's just dirt, Thomas, but dirt doesn't lie.
Johann stared at the floor, jaw clamped shut. The words his wife needed never came. Ingrid hushed the children, her voice low, a soft wall against the howling dark.
Pa, why doesn't he speak? He called us dirt moles.
Words come hard after you've been wrong. The fire will thaw him.
Lucas slid a fresh log into the stove. The flames leaped, and the walls hummed with the night's last fury. Outside, the blizzard clawed, but the sod house drank the noise like the earth drinks rain. The storm would rage on, but inside these walls, they would all see morning. The hours bled together. The wind's scream dulled to a moan, and finally to a quiet hiss. Eric slept with his head against Lucas's side. The McAllister children lay in a pile of blankets, their faces calm. Lucas cracked the stove door. The embers winked orange. He fed them a few dry twigs, and the warmth steadied. Gray light seeped through the window, thin as watered milk.
Thomas sat up, rubbing his eyes. Is it over? Is the storm done?
Lucas kept his voice low. The worst has passed, but we won't know for sure until we open that door.
Ingrid pressed a hand to her chest. Please, let my children see the sun.
They will. A few more hours, and the world will be quiet again.
Slowly, the others woke, their movements heavy with exhaustion and dread. No one moved toward the door. They waited, listening to the last breaths of the dying blizzard. Lucas pushed the door open. Sunlight, blinding and clean, poured over the frozen world. Beyond the doorway, the settlement lay in ruins. Timber cabins were skeletons, roofs stripped clean.
Our home, it's gone. There's nothing left.
Only one building stood whole. The sod house, its earthen walls steaming gently in the cold dawn.
You saved us. I have lumber, enough to build you a proper house. Let me give it to you.
I already have a house, Thomas. This dirt held when your wood didn't.
Johann stood over the smoking crater where his cabin had burned. Nothing could be saved. He looked at Lucas, his eyes raw, but no words came.
The prairie gives what you let it. You need to listen to it.
That morning, they understood. The dirt hovel was the only home left standing. Lucas turned to face them all, his voice carrying across the frozen, silent ruins.
The people who lived here before us knew. They built with this very earth, and it kept them alive for centuries. A man named Samuel Blackfeather told me that fact, and you laughed at him, as though he were nothing.
Thomas's gaze dropped to the snow, unable to meet Lucas's eyes. Johann's face flushed crimson, but no defense came, only shame.
He's right. We never asked. We never even thought to ask.
A long silence settled over the group, broken only by the wind sweeping the prairie ruins. Lucas picked up a clod of frozen sod, and let it crumble in his fingers.
This isn't just dirt. It's a lesson that cost you everything to learn, but it's here for the taking.
The wind answered, but the neighbors stood motionless, finally listening to what they should have heard all along. In the long silence, Johan Peterson walked to where the prairie grass was thickest and picked up a spade.
He sliced the turf clean, then held up the heavy brick. Show me how to lay them.
Lucas took the sod block from Johan's outstretched hands and set it into place on a fresh foundation.
Like that. Overlap the joints and wait as your friend. The earth will do the rest.
Thomas nodded and turned to the other men. We'll need new foundations. Let's clear the ground and dig in. Axes and spades swung, and the air filled with the sound of work instead of mockery. One by one, other men picked up spades and began cutting thick bricks from the frozen prairie.
They're doing it. They're finally building like us.
Lucas worked alongside them, his hands in the soil, his silence now a language they understood. A new rhythm began. The same beat Lucas had swung alone, now echoed by the whole settlement. As dusk fell, Lucas and Eric sat on the stoop of their sod house, the new walls of the settlement silhouetted against the darkening sky.
Pa, I still don't understand. Why didn't they just ask the Indians? It could have saved everything.
Because people need to see it themselves, Eric. Words aren't enough. My grandfather taught me that.
He picked up a clump of sod, the roots weaving through the dark soil like 1,000 fingers holding tight.
This is what kept us alive, son. Not lumber, not pride, earth and sky, and each other.
Like you and me, Pa. We held tight.
Lucas put his arm around Eric and drew him close. The last orange light bled from the horizon.
Now you understand. The house is just dirt. The real strength is what we just learned together.
I'll never forget this night, or the storm, or how the dirt held when nothing else would.
They sat in silence as the stars emerged, the sod house behind them warm and alive, a testament to the prairie's oldest lesson. Spring crept over the prairie, and the sod house greened with it, grass sprouting from every earthen block.
Now we give back what we took. Eric, a handful of seed for every brick we lifted.
Within weeks, wildflowers studded the walls, small purple blossoms that swayed in the warm wind.
Look, Pa. The walls are blooming. It's like the house came back to life.
It never died, son. It was just waiting for the sun.
The house seemed to rise from the land itself, its roof a meadow, its walls alive with roots and blossoms. Where other houses were dead timber, this one breathed, fed by the same soil that had been mocked.
Nobody can call this a dirt hovel now. It's the most beautiful thing on the prairie.
Lucas stood with his hand on Eric's shoulder, the warm breeze carrying the scent of fresh earth. The house had become what it was always meant to be, a living part of the land that protected them. One warm morning, a wagon appeared on the horizon, a man staring bewildered at the treeless expanse. Lucas and Eric walked out to meet him, the green prairie stretching endlessly behind them.
You'll need shelter. I can show you how to build one that will last.
Eric smiled, understanding now that his father's knowledge was a gift meant for others. That afternoon, Lucas knelt in the dirt with the stranger, showing him how to cut a living brick.
The prairie holds everything you need. Lay the bricks thick, overlap the seams, and the earth will look after you.
As the sun sank, the sod house glowed like a lantern on the plain, its windows bright with promise. Far off, a lone figure stood on a hill, watching the new walls rise across the prairie, and then turned away with a quiet smile.
Will our house always be here, Pa?
As long as the prairie needs a lesson in what lasts, son.